What makes a young player truly special in today's NBA? Is it the numbers, the highlights, or that quiet sense that when he's on the floor, everything just works better? For the Houston Rockets, that player might be Thompson. The Rockets, once a rebuilding project lost in the lottery, suddenly look alive again. And right at the center of it, helping tie together one of the league's most intriguing young cores, is a 22-year-old who might be redefining what a point guard of the future looks like. But how good is Thompson, really? And just how high can his ceiling go if he ever adds that one missing piece to his game? For Thompson, it started long before the NBA lights, in a quiet gym somewhere in Florida. A place where two brothers, identical in looks but unique in rhythm, were trained not to be flashy, but to be flawless. Amen and his twin brother, Asar, grew up in a household that treated basketball less like a hobby and more like a calling. Their parents, Troy and Maya Thompson, weren't chasing fame or followers. They were building a system where everything revolved around discipline, repetition, and vision. From an early age, the twins were homeschooled. Instead of sitting through standard school hours, they spent mornings in the classroom and afternoons in the gym. While other kids were learning equations, Amen was learning angles, the kind that decide whether a pass threads through traffic or turns into a turnover. And in that controlled environment, Amen developed something rare, a sense for the game that felt instinctive, almost mathematical. By the time he was 15, Amen wasn't just athletic, he was efficient. He wasn't playing for clout. He was dissecting the game, reading plays 2 steps ahead. Scouts began to take notice, but there was always that caveat. He wasn't in the traditional system. No big AAU circuits, no national spotlight. That lack of exposure would soon become the story of his life. A player so unique, he'd have to carve his own lane to be seen. But that foundation, those years of precision and isolation, created something special. It built a player who doesn't just play fast, he thinks fast. Who doesn't just react, he anticipates. And that's what separates Thompson from the average athletic prospect. His speed might grab attention, but it's his processing that truly defines him. Because while the world sees dunks and highlights, Amen was raised to see structure, to understand basketball as a science of movement, timing, and control. And that's exactly what made his next move, skipping college entirely, both shocking and inevitable. In 2021, the basketball world was changing. Name, image, and likeness laws were opening new doors. Players no longer had to go through college to be seen, but even then, few were bold enough to walk away from the system completely. Thompson was. When Amen and Asar announced they were joining Overtime Elite, the reaction was mixed. Curiosity wrapped in skepticism. A new league, barely a year old, no history, no NCAA pedigree, just 3 teams, cameras, and a promise to reinvent how young players turn pro. To most scouts, it sounded risky, even reckless. To Amen, it sounded like freedom. He was learning the pro rhythm, conditioning, film study, team structure, and financial education, all before he turned 19. And more importantly, he had time. Time to experiment with pace. Time to fail privately and grow quickly. That level of competition wasn't what you'd find in the NCAA or Europe, and that criticism was fair. But what Amen gained was context. He wasn't just dominating, he was orchestrating, running the floor as a 6'7" point guard with elite speed and vision, a prototype that barely existed in the modern game. In his first season with Overtime Elite, Amen averaged 14 points, leading his team to the finals. The next year, he turned it up another level. 16 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and led the City Reapers to a championship sweep, sealing the series with a game-winning layup. But numbers never told the full story. What scouts saw in those games wasn't just production, it was potential energy. Every drive, every pass, every defensive rotation hinted at a player whose physical gifts could translate anywhere. If molded correctly, still questions lingered. Could he shoot? Could he handle NBA-level defenses? Was he just another athlete who'd fade under structure? Amen knew those doubts. He heard them. But he also knew something else. The game was evolving. And his kind of versatility, defending, creating, adapting, was exactly what the new NBA demanded. By the time the 2023 NBA draft arrived, Amon's gamble had paid off. Despite the skepticism, despite the unconventional route, he had become one of the most intriguing prospects in years. The Houston Rockets didn't just see a player, they saw a project worth building around. And when they called his name with the 4th overall pick, one spot ahead of his twin, it marked the start of something rare. Not just a new chapter in Houston's rebuild, but the rise of a new archetype in basketball itself. Amon Thompson wasn't just entering the league. He was entering a proving ground, one that would test every part of what made him different. Every rookie enters the league with dreams of taking over, but few realize that the NBA doesn't hand out opportunities, it filters them. For Amon Thompson, that reality hit hard in his first year with the Houston Rockets. Coming into the 2023-24 season, the Rockets weren't the same chaotic rebuild they'd been for years. They had a new identity, built under head coach Ime Udoka, structured around discipline, defense, and accountability. And most importantly, they had a new veteran floor general, Fred VanVleet. For Amon, that meant learning before leading. Udoka wasn't going to rush him into 30 minutes a night just because he was athletic. He wanted him to earn it, through control, through decision-making, through defense. So for much of his rookie season, Amon was contained, minutes off the bench, secondary ball handling duties, and a lot of watching. On paper, it looked like stagnation. In reality, it was incubation. Behind the scenes, coaches talked about his motor, his defensive reads, his quiet focus. VanVleet later called him one of the most locked-in rookies he'd ever mentored. Not flashy, not loud, just relentlessly curious. By mid-season, the glimpses began to surface. And even though he only averaged 10 points and 7 rebounds, it wasn't the stat sheet that told the story. It was the way he moved, reading rotations, timing cuts, directing fast breaks with the poise of a veteran. Still, there were clear flaws. His three-point shot, just 13% from deep, was a real weakness. Defenders sagged off him, forcing him to prove he could make them pay. He couldn't, not yet. But the Rockets didn't panic. They knew his game wasn't built around jumpers. It was built on pressure, forcing defenses to collapse, forcing tempo, forcing chaos. And chaos, when controlled, can become dominance. By the end of the season, something shifted. Udoka started trusting him with more minutes. The pace changed when Amon was on the floor. Faster, sharper, more aggressive. Because under restraint, something dangerous was forming: rhythm, confidence, and control. And once that control met opportunity, the league would start to see what Houston had really drafted. By the start of the 2024-25 campaign, the Rockets had finally handed him the keys. No longer just a rookie learning from veterans, Amon became a driver of the game, and the results were impossible to ignore. He averaged 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, all while playing 32 minutes a night. His three-point shooting improved to 27.5%. Still a work in progress, but enough to keep defenses honest. He recorded multiple triple-doubles, including standout performances against the Cleveland Cavaliers, New York Knicks, and Phoenix Suns, showing he could dominate in scoring, rebounding, and playmaking simultaneously. But stats alone can't capture what made this season special. Amon's influence went far beyond the box score. Defensively, he became a nightmare matchup for opposing teams. His length, lateral quickness, and basketball IQ allowed him to guard point guards, wings, and even small forwards, switching seamlessly between positions. He averaged 1.4 steals and 1.3 blocks per game. But more importantly, his presence altered shots, disrupted passing lanes, and forced opponents into uncomfortable positions, even when he didn't appear in the stat sheet. On offense, Amon's growth was equally impressive. He wasn't just finishing at the rim, he was creating opportunities for teammates, threading passes that only someone with elite court vision could see. In transition, he became the team's engine, pushing the pace, finding cutters, and turning defense into offense. He wasn't scoring 30 points a night, but he made his team better every time he touched the ball. This combination of versatility, intelligence, and athleticism made Amon a prototype for the modern NBA guard. He doesn't rely on a jumper to dominate. He doesn't need isolation scoring to impact the game. Instead, he uses his speed, strength, and vision to control possessions, forcing defenses to adjust to him, rather than the other way around. The numbers back it up. The Rockets' offensive and defensive ratings improved whenever Amen was on the floor. Advanced stats showed him as a true plus player, someone whose value can't be fully captured by points alone. And while the league may still be skeptical about his three-point shot, the truth is clear. Amen is already elite in areas that matter more than points. He's a defender who can guard multiple positions, a facilitator who makes everyone better, and a finisher who can attack the rim with power and precision. For a young player, this kind of impact is rare. Even in a league obsessed with scoring and highlight plays, Amen Thompson has quietly become one of the most important players on a resurgent Houston Rockets team. By the end of his second season, it was obvious. Amen was no longer just a prospect. He was a rising star. What makes Amen truly special isn't just points, rebounds, or assists, it's the intangibles. Start with his athleticism. At 6 feet 7 inches with elite speed and agility, he glides across the floor in a way that looks effortless, until you realize he's dictating the pace of the game. He can blow by defenders on a fast break, change direction mid-air, or absorb contact, finishing at the rim. Then there's his court vision. Amen isn't a scorer-first guard. He's a playmaker, constantly surveying the floor, anticipating movements before they happen. He threads passes between traffic that would make seasoned veterans pause, creating scoring opportunities seemingly out of thin air. During his triple-double performances this season, it wasn't just the assists themselves. It was how he made those plays, controlling the tempo, manipulating defenses, and keeping his teammates in rhythm. Defense is another area where Amen shines. The kind of defense that doesn't always appear in highlight reels, but changes games. He can guard point guards, wings, and even forwards, switching seamlessly without losing effectiveness. His long wingspan and quick feet allow him to contest shots, deflect passes, and grab steals, while his understanding of positioning helps the Rockets recover rotations. Opponents are constantly forced to adjust, and even small mistakes against him are punished in transition. Add in his versatility, a skill that NBA teams covet in the modern era. Amen can push the ball in transition, run half-court sets, or take control when the offense stalls. He's not tied to one position, one role, or one style of play. In many ways, he's a blueprint for what teams want in the next generation. A multi-dimensional guard who can impact every possession without needing to dominate scoring. And the scary truth for the rest of the league? Amen Thompson is already elite in areas you can't measure easily, and he's only scratching the surface of his potential. His scoring can improve, his jumper can develop, but his speed, vision, versatility, and defensive impact are gifts that can't be taught. And when combined with even a competent outside shot, he could become one of the most complete players in the NBA. Amen doesn't just make plays. He makes the game easier for everyone around him. And that, in today's NBA, is exactly the kind of player who can change the trajectory of a franchise. If Amen Thompson has one glaring weakness, it's obvious: his jump shot. Through his first 2 seasons, his three-point percentage has hovered below 30%. For a modern NBA guard, that's a problem. A door opponents can sag into and exploit. Improving that shot could unlock a new level of stardom. It would open driving lanes, expand spacing for teammates, and turn Amen from a versatile star into a primary offensive threat. And the comparison to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is striking. SGA didn't start his career as an elite scorer. His jump shot, like Amen's, was a work in progress. What made him dangerous early on was his court vision, finishing ability, and creativity in the paint. The same traits Amen already possesses. Over time, SGA developed his jumper, added range, and became a true MVP contender. And Amen has the same tools. If Amen refines his shooting, he could reach the level of SGA, or even surpass it, becoming a multi-dimensional star capable of controlling a game in every way. The Rockets have built around him a system designed to maximize his strengths while giving him room to grow. For now, the league watches not just what Amen scores, but everything he changes on the court without needing to score. And the consensus is clear: the jump shot is the last piece. Everything else is already elite. But the thing that will make him special, his vision, his versatility, his fearlessness, was built long before he stepped on an NBA court. The future awaits, and Amen Thompson is ready to meet it.